What was the rallying cry that led to the U.S. Spanish-American War?
What?
Anybody? Remember the Maine. Next trivia question. Why are we doing the podcast? Hey!
The world may never know.
I do the pop culture stuff. I'm sorry. You and your history.
Who are you? Wait a second. Let's introduce everybody. Hi, this is Carnival Personnel. I'm Joe.
Let's start again.
Okay.
Hi, this is Sideshow.
All right.
Carnival Personnel spinoff. I'm Jacques.
I used to be Joe.
And this is our friend Sully.
Hello.
Or Haji.
Hello.
Or Mike.
Hello.
Hello, Carnies, and welcome to Sideshow. This episode is all about trivia. So let's start again. What was the rallying cry that led to the Spanish-American War?
I want to say, remember the Maine?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Which was an internal boat fire that had nothing to do with the Spanish at all, that the U.S. used that as a reason to get into a war. Because, anyways, not that history would ever repeat itself and happen again. No. Anyways, so we have our friend Mike, Haji, Sully, all one guy, who is a professional trivia host.
A TJ. A trivia jockey. Hey, here's a question.
So Mike is a former 20-year professional. Why am I telling you guys all this? Everybody who's listening to Sideshow hung on each and every word of this past week's Carnival Personnel. You know Mike's whole biography backwards and forth.
Unless you for some reason were sick between the the days of Monday and Thursday, and now you're just catching up, and you're listening to the Thursday first.
They're using dial-up. This one downloads faster.
This one is a lot
So what we're reviewed. So Mike is a 20-year radio professional, has worked all over the country at major stations, #1 stations during drive time AM. He was a producer in Detroit. We can go down the whole thing, but when he left radio and wanted to keep using those golden pipes to entertain people,
That's right.
he turned to trivia.
Yeah, so I work for a company called Stump Trivia. They're around nationwide, owned by BuzzTime. BuzzTime, you may know from being in bars where they have TVs where you can get like a little playmaker. Right. So that company owns Stump. So you can actually have the live interaction, and that's where I come in. I go out to bars and host at charity events and things like that.
But you didn't start with them, did you? When you were at the Nines...
When I was at the Nines, I was helping the guy who ran the trivia there out. He would write his own questions, and when he'd go on vacation, because I was a regular there, because, well, I like booze, I would fill in for him when he was out, and that what sparked the, hey, I can do this professionally. So I did it at the Nines for free, for free beers.
Yeah, well, it's not for free. Not for free. If you went to a bar to do trivia, how much are you spending on beer versus how much are you saving by doing it?
True.
So you did it for about $400.
Question number 1, math. Am I good at it? No.
Was that the first trivia gig?
Yeah, outside of doing trivia type of things on the air when I was doing radio, yeah, that would be the first trivia gig.
And did the trivia call-ins prepare you for the life and being a TJ?
Well, the radio world actually did. For radio guys, you can go out and see them do stand-up or host events. So it did prepare me actually for being a TJ, because when people heckle you, if you're not experienced with it, you're not going to, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No, you just give it right back.
Yeah.
And I'm known for doing that.
Yeah, it's like being a stand-up comic. You just have to.
Except you guys are funny.
You guys.
What do you mean, you people?
Yeah, right. What do you mean, you people?
No, and one of the reasons we thought this would be a fun sideshow is not only is just Mike a really fun guy to be around, Joe's love of TV shows,
and Mike. Oops,
it's my T-shirt.
The mic's on. Yeah, right. That T-shirt is hypnotic.
Which are largely trivia-based sort of shows and stuff like that. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about trivia in general, like the history of it. Like, is there a definition of trivia? It's like what shows do people consider trivia? Is for instance, Family Feud, is that trivia?
No, that's more of like a kind of a gauge on general knowledge and like how society would answer certain questions. Trivia is like very fine.
It's a very surveying, is that a word?
Yes.
That would Family Feud would be that type of trivia. So I think it's under the same umbrella because we do at Stump have a thing called, used to be called Questionary. I'm trying to remember what it's called now, but it's a Family Feud style game where the people at the bar will, be like, okay, what's the greatest Boston sports team? Everybody would write down their answers. They turn them in, and then you repeat back. Okay, if you said the Red Sox, give yourself a point. If you said the Bruins, give yourself 2 points. So on. If you said the Revolution, leave. Thank you. Good night. Soccer sucks.
Hey,
The Carnival Personnel Podcast does not condone.
But they may agree.
completely. So let's get into the trivia of trivia. It's like we're not going to do the Mount Rushmore thing again, but when did trivia become a thing in the U.S.?
I don't have an answer for that, but I would think that growing up, we had those trivia style shows that we would watch. We mentioned game shows, but I think when the explosion of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire came in the early 2000s, when people really wanted to be on, I wanted to be on that show. I auditioned to be on that show, and I didn't make it.
You weren't a fastest finger?
Hello. Thank you. Good night.
Hello.
Ladies! Regis didn't like it.
Well, hello again, everybody. Good evening and welcome to a special Night 5 of Celebrity Millionaire. Norm MacDonald, our sleeping giant over there, insisted on doing a fastest finger question. You all set?
Yes, sir.
Okay, here is your own personal fastest finger question. Put the following letters in order to spell a popular man's name. Okay, Norm, time's up. Let's see the answer in the correct order and see who got it right in the fast. N, and an O, and an R, and an M. Who got it in the fastest time? Norm MacDonald.
No, I auditioned to be on that show in 2003.
I remember the early days. You would call in to the show. They would give it like an 800 number, and you would call in, and you would have to dial in. They'd give you trivia questions over the phone, and then you would have to punch in the answer from a random, a multiple choice. And if you were fast enough, then you would go on to the next step.
That's not how I did. I just filled out an online application.
Got everything wrong but the date of birth.
That's right. I guessed. I drove down to New York for the day to go to ABC's building that they had, and their cafeterias where they held the auditions. They had, I think, 200 or 250 people per audition. You go in, and it was like the SATs or the the MCAS or whatever you want to call them. Those tests where you fill out with the number 2 pencil. They gave you the sheet of, I think it was 40 questions. And then what they would do is the top 20 people out of all of it would make the next round, where you would sit down and have an interview with one of the producers. I made it to that round, had the interview with the producer. We got along great. They loved my background, but they said they had to do background checks because this was around the time where, I forget which dating game show, or there was a reality show that there was someone who killed someone after the fact.
That's right.
So they didn't realize that this guy was a psycho because they didn't do the background check. So everything's getting a background check. They did the background check, and they found out I once worked for ABC Radio 6 or 8 years prior. And they're like, oh, you may know someone. You can. I'm like, who's going to give me the freaking questions for, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? But because of that, I did not make it on the show.
Right. That's a common standards or practices for any game show.
Yeah.
You would hope that at some point there'd be a cutoff. Show,
Yeah.
Right? Like a statute of limitations.
Yeah. Just hold up the picture of the boss of the company. Who is this? I have no idea. You may go.
Exactly.
But I think it would be around then that trivia, going back to the original question, that trivia became so popular and prominent for people going out and playing. Because for myself, wherever I would move to for radio jobs, that game I mentioned earlier, the Buzz Time game, I would find bars that had it. I would go down, I'd play, and I'd make friends with people at the bar playing the the answer to this is number 2, or the answer is 4, or whatever it is. Yeah, I'd befriend people doing this, so it became a very social thing, and I think that all stemmed from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and shows like that from the late 90s, early 2000s. From there, the guy who created Stump Trivia, he started at one bar, and he built up the company to what it was locally, and then in turn was purchased by Buzz Time. But it became a very social thing. I think that it's just a great way for people to get down with their friend. Get together with friends. You're saying earlier. When am I going to get together with my friend? Yeah. This is a way to do it. We have an appointment. We're going to be Wednesday night at 8:00. We're meeting at this bar so we can play trivia and hang out and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the 90s sort of birthed this sort of re-interest in trivia in general because you've amassed so much pop culture and as far as like references, like you'd watch The Simpsons and like The Simpsons in and of itself was sort of like a little trivia quiz.
Oh yeah, but I think we did a Simpsons night as one of our trivia nights.
Yeah, so like by the time Millionaire came around, I think in like 99, like America was just like, I know all this useless information that I can't get out.
And the same thing going back to the 80s. We had Trivial Pursuit. We would sit around on...
If you were here a month ago, you would have seen a stack of Trivial Pursuit games right behind you because I basically given it away because I had I have to make room for more video games. But I had like Trivial Pursuit from like the original version and then Genus 2 and Genus 3 and the 80s edition and the 90s edition. And actually, your microphone is propped on top of a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire home game.
But when you say Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire at its heyday, it's a precipice. I mean, is that as big as like, what was it, $64,000 question?
Yeah. You want to go back to the OG of trivia in the 50s, the quiz shows, which obviously the Robert Redford movie focused on the game 21, in which I think his name was Herbert Stemple. He was sort of like this nerdy, but he knew all the answers to the questions. And then they had Charles Van Doren come in, who was like this like waspy, I think he was like a professor or someplace. And they found that his popularity was even more so because of his looks and his background. So producers started feeding him questions, which at the time they had no standards and practices, and that led to the whole quiz show scandal where they determined that you can't deceive the public into thinking that this is a real competition when, in fact, you're making sure that the contestants know the answers ahead of time. And then that sort of birthed the whole standards and practices in game shows.
So it's interesting that, every generation thinks like, with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, that was the biggest thing. But Jeopardy when did Jeopardy come on? I mean, it
started in the 60s, I believe, in like the 60s, and then it wrapped in the 70s with Art Fleming as the host. And then Merv Griffin decided to bring it back in 84 with Alex Trebek, who's still hosting today. So, 84. I mean, 33 years? And still a huge juggernaut. And they've evolved. They found a way to make it themselves relevant and sort of like with the times. And they haven't aged themselves out at all.
Do you like Jeopardy or do you like SNL's Jeopardy?
Well, there's Celebrity Jeopardy and then there's Black Jeopardy. So if you look up have you seen the Black Jeopardy sketch?
Yeah, okay. With Tom Hanks.
Yes,
the last
fantastic. Yeah, that was a couple of years ago.
Absolutely
That was
great.
The board is yours, Shanice.
Let's go with they out there saying for 200.
Okay, the answer, they out here saying the new iPhone wants your thumbprint for your protection. Oh, okay then, Doug.
What is, I don't think so. That's how they get you.
Yes! Yes!
I don't trust that.
Me either.
No, I read that go straight to the government.
Well, that is not bad, Doug.
Our friend Lee has been, I don't know if you call it there's no big cash money in it, but he's traveled around the country since he went to college in the early 80s. He has a team that he met at college that they would do tournaments, and once or twice a year he would travel to do these big, trivia things. And again, it's like one of those things where you think, is it a niche thing? Is it a small subculture? But then when you think how many TV shows or game shows are on currently, how many have always been on since the advent of television?
Look at local around here. When I say local, I'm referring to that New Hampshire, the Granite State one.
The College Bowls.
They have the College Bowls. I remember growing up, I remember two things. Mr. Stone, who was my 7th grade history teacher, on Fridays, he would pull out a book that he had trivia in and give you 10 questions, and if you get them all right, you get like an extra, 10 points or 100 or whatever on your grade for the week. I did very well. Then I also remember, and I think this is probably what started me down the road for loving trivia as much as I do. 4th grade, Mr. Barry was, again, doing a thing for the students to move up in line or something like that. And he asked, what is the name, I'm remembering this perfectly, what is the name of the bear from Grizzly Adams? The answer was Ben. And I said that to him, and he says, "No, it's Gentle Ben." And I said to him, "No, that was the show with Ron Howard." Oh! And he sent me to the back of the line. Fuck that guy.
Right.
How did the lawsuit wind up?
Right. They settled out of court.
It's one of those things. There's been a couple times where I've come to visit and Mike's doing trivia. I'm like, oh, okay, let's go and do this. It's an excuse to see him, an excuse to have a few beers. And it's like, oh, it's so hacky. So, and then you get there and you look down at your watch, you're like, I've been here for 4 hours.
Right.
And it's a lot more fun than you would think.
Yeah, and I think just because of the nature of competition, if you think you have like any sort of chance of winning, you're going to compete and you're going to want to be right as quick as possible and as
those people. All right. So we have players, okay, that are very smart and they're right. They're getting them up first. As I mentioned in the last podcast, the guy who slammed his answer down on my laptop and just wrecked everything. But there are people who cheat. People pull out their smartphones. We tell them not to, not to do it. And they're trying to be subtle, I'm, looking around. Oh, if the question just went through, I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. You're trying to win a $10 gift card for a bar or a restaurant. If you're that hard up for it, I'll give you the $10. Play normally.
It's not about the prize, man.
Right.
It's about the bragging rights.
Yeah, seriously, if you feel the need that you have to cheat, don't bother showing up. Just drink with your friends. Yeah. I won't give a shit.
Right.
It really makes me angry when I see these people cheating. If you don't know the answer, don't worry about it.
Right.
It's a $10 gift card you're playing.
But the allure of being the first to expunge knowledge upon somebody, and they're like, I know the answer, and that makes you look smart.
And that's great. I know you're not cheating when you're writing that answer down and you're up. Within the first 30 seconds. It's the person who's turning in it, okay, here's one of my favorite trivia questions of all time. And I actually used this in a Match.com profile when I was looking for someone. It worked out well.
Thumbs down.
Wilma Flintstone's maiden name. What is it?
Wow.
Oh, wait. What was it? Not McGillicuddy.
Nope.
I give up.
And I know it's not Mrs. Bouvier! Mrs. Bouvier!
What is it?
Slaghoople.
Wow.
Okay.
Never. We could have sat here for a year.
I think Flintstones episode when they went to when they were younger, they were in Rock Vegas.
Rock Vegas.
And Barney and Fred were bellhops, and they were like the cigarette girls. That was mentioned in
right.
That. It was mentioned.
I
in
thought
that.
There would be like an episode where her mother would come to visit.
Yeah, I think they mentioned it once with that too. But for whatever reason, I remember.
And you remember
that episode,
and I remember it. And Betty's was Mick Bricker.
Wow.
And you've seen women naked.
I have that one time. Like if I asked that question, someone came up within 30 seconds. I know they know it. If they show up 3 minutes later, because when we ask a question, I play a song, and that's the length of time you have to turn your answer in. I know you cheated.
Right.
That is not an answer anybody should know.
Slaghoople.
What episode number? Episode 84. You. But yeah, there is the bragging rights to do it. There is the I know this answer. I'm going to turn it in first. But the cheaters it just really makes me angry. Yeah. And I guess it would be the same thing going back to quiz show. You know, the cheating on that, making people angry. We're not going to do this anymore.
Right. There are no standards and practices at a bar in Linfield, and
there are no standards when I'm involved anyway.
Right.
Getting back to the women you see naked.
Right. Anyway.
But my favorite thing when I would go to see Mike, do trivia, is he calls out the team name when they get the question right. Oh. And I would always put team names. Mike really likes dudes and have the correct answer with.
First off, if you are going to be serious about trivia, don't Google what should I use as a team name, because if I ever see my couch pulls out, but I don't as a fucking team name, I'm just going to kick you out. I'm tired of those.
Yeah.
But also one of them that I've seen at a few different places, so I'm sure it's on some Google searches. I wish this microphone were a penis.
Uh-huh.
I read it the first time because it was funny, and then I was like, "Okay, come on, come up with some original material." Okay, Mencia, don't do that.
There's no way I'm going to isolate that for future use.
Oh, no. I wish this penis were a microphone.
Wait a second.
I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic.
I'm going to isolate that and use it for future reference.
I know, but when I would go see Mike do trivia, I would always, they think I'm so witty and clever making fun of you. But now that how many years have you been doing this as a side gig?
As a side gig, a little over 3 years.
Is it growing in popularity? Or is it flatlined? Where is it?
It has waves. So, like during the summer, it can be up and down because people are away on vacation, things like that. Fall, when people aren't vacationing, it's great, except on football nights. Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football, it's not, you don't get a good crowd. You usually get a sports crowd that wants to be there, and they just say, shut up, trivia guy, so you can, so they can watch the game. Even though there's no audio, they,
Right.
They want that. Winter, it's I don't want to say hit or miss. I'll either get a large crowd, or if it's poor weather, no one. And then springtime, again, depending on if there's a playoff game with the Bruins or the Celtics, the crowds are either up or down.
The funny thing is, knowing Mike as well as I do, it's one of those things where, on one hand, you think, trivia is kind of really geeky, but then on the other hand, Mike started to do trivia in part to buy his Bruins tickets.
Yes, that was it. I needed the money because I buy a Bruins game package every year, and it's like $800. So
Right.
it's like, okay, I'll use it.
And so that's one of the the economies there. It's like, I'll do something really geeky to buy something
and
really
it does. You without turning into a sales guy, you want the people to come back. So when you're performing and asking these questions, and you want to be entertaining, you want to have fun with your teams. You want to play the music that they would like to hear. You don't want to play. No one wants to hear me play a Rush song during trivia, because one, we'll be there for about 4 hours waiting for it to end and give out the answer. You want it to be fun. You want it to be light. Like I will use the songs as hints sometimes, but you want the return business, because the more teams that play, the more I get paid.
So it's a profit deal.
It's a totally what? That is crazy.
Takes the pressure off.
You know that the Marx Brothers were considering doing a trivia show. You knew that, right, Joe?
No.
They were offered, but you know why?
Because Chico needed the money.
Thank you very much. Okay. Good night.
Thank you. I'm here all week. Second show different than the first.
Right. Although, of course, Groucho Marx went on to host his own trivia game show, You Bet Your Life.
Mm-hmm.
And now, honestly,
yes,
groupies.
At trivia? I met my current girlfriend at trivia.
Well, you hear that? Current. As in not my girlfriend. Just to be really clear, he said
I'm going to edit out current. I'll edit out current.
No. You can leave that because she's smart.
My current wife really likes his current girlfriend.
No, I love my girlfriend. I do.
But do you have are there people? And I'm not just saying the ladies following you around. but do you have people who are like, and it's one of those things, as a radio personality, it's funny when we saw Mike in Detroit, there are people who think they know you.
Yes.
Because they hear you over a loudspeaker. And the groupies that he had, I was like, wait a minute, you know who this is, right? Because I can, if you're unclear, let me bring everybody back around. Right. But it's true. But with something like this, do you have people showing up for you doing it, or do you have people showing up to do trivia?
Both. I do have regulars that show up every week because they love trivia, and when I go on vacation or if I'm out sick, every time I come back, please don't ever be sick or anything like that. We hated the last guy.
Don't have a life.
Yeah, don't do that. So I do have regulars.
Dr. Marvin, Dr. Leo Marvin. Sorry. Or what about Bob reference?
But yeah, so I do have that. And I've had people who like the way I do it, that they'll go to my other events when I would have multiple nights. So they'd say, I did it in Linfield on Monday. I'm going to check them out on Wednesday in Andover. And they'll go to Andover just to play trivia with me again. Not because, they want to play trivia. They just wanted to hang out or things like that.
Just talk about radio personalities and trivia. A lot of these old game show hosts, like Wink Martindale, for example, started off his career in radio. Bill Cullen was a radio guy. I think Bob Barker was a radio guy. So
Eubanks was.
Right. All of these game show hosts had experience in radio, and it's sort of that connection you have to have with an audience, being able to banter. And just sort of hold an audience and have something about your personality that brings them back every week. There's a reason why he's being paid to do trivia, because not everybody can just engage an audience.
People think they can.
Right.
We'll have people, because when I did this, when I first started, like I said, within a day they reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you go to this place, meet this person, and do an audition?" So I had to audition for it, because you can't throw someone on a microphone except if they're doing a podcast and let them. Hey! Hey, what?
Hey!
I resemble that remark.
I think he's talking about you, Joe.
Just to see how they perform, see if they can read. Seriously. And as soon as I did it, the first guy, he's like, okay, tell me your background, because you want to get to know the person who's auditioning.
Get to know me.
And he's like, why are they even making an audition? He just handed me the microphone. He says, okay, just go ahead and do it. And I did it. And he was like, okay, yeah, you're fine. And I'm like, I know, because I'm cocky. And
What the hell?
so I've had people audition while I'm there. And I've had people that have been good. And I've had people that after they read the first question, I'm like, okay, thank you very much. Give it up for person.
Right.
I don't care to know your name.
Quasimodo, everybody.
And I don't forget where we're going with this, but
No, not everybody can be.
but not
a
everybody.
trivia host.
Not everybody can be a host.
But everybody thinks they can because it's a craft. Like you have to know the cadence of how to deliver a question. You have to know the timing. You have to know when to move things along and how far to let things go. And so there's a whole kind of art to it. And you can't just go. It's like stand-up comedy. It's like any sort of emceeing. You just can't throw anybody up there. It's like reading a question like, "What is the only U.S. state named for a president?"
Alabama.
Washington. Very good. 10 points awarded to you.
Yeah.
I mean, so if I could not be a good game show host, although I do have trivia cards right here.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do, which I'm not going to read, but I don't know, like at some point in this podcast.
I'd like you to read a card as Bernie Sanders.
As Bernie Sanders. You suck. I hate you so much. Just want to go on the record with that.
Wait, I got to get a beer for this one.
I need to get a beer for this one. What biblical tribe? Let me try that again. What biblical tribe did the giant Goliath belong to?
I don't know, but it sounds like I lost an election.
Everybody knows it's the Philistines.
Wait, you said an election?
Right. Yeah.
Now read one as
suck.
the aging Groucho.
How long would everybody be famous for in Andy Warhol's famous prediction?
What would be 15 minutes?
Wrong. You answered in the form of a question. In my day, we answered in the form of an answer. I can't give you the points.
So the duck's not coming down? And
Yeah, you didn't say the magic word, which was vagina.
So you were talking to me about hecklers, which when Joe and I would do stand-up, one of the worst things when you would do stand-up at the beginning is open mics because of two things. Everybody there is to just do their bit, and they're being respectful or just buried in what they're doing, getting ready to go up, and there's no real interaction. My favorite thing when I've got to do it in front of real crowds is being heckled, like the back and forth. That for me. I mean, I would prepare some stuff, but lots of times I would go just waiting to be heckled because that's when it becomes fun. That's when the banter becomes
You were the
fun.
Terry O'Reilly of comedy.
Well, and you would bait people in, and seriously, there's sometimes that it will go well, but that's what. And even if you got your ass kicked by a heckler, you learned a lot. I mean, some of the worst nights of comedy that I've done, I learned. It's the same thing. It's like if you win all the time, you're not playing good enough competition. If you got your ass kicked by a heckler, it either made you quit or it made you better. And so you've had a lot of that.
Oh, I've definitely had my share of hecklers at the trivia nights. Just like any, I'm not calling myself a stand-up, but just like any stand-up, you have your ammo. You have your things that you've either heard or may have stolen from someone. I'm trying to like one of my favorites is, I'm not going to make fun of you because God's done that already. Things like that. I remember, it's got to be about 20 years ago now. A friend of mine who's a comedian was opening up for Loverboy, and it was his birthday. So the friend I mentioned in the other podcast who booked the Palace booked this place. So it was his birthday. So they asked me to come and open for him, who's opening for Loverboy.
Wow.
And as soon as I got out there, heckle from like the 4 people that were there. We love Mike Reno.
In their defense, who doesn't love Mike
I know,
Reno?
right? It's his pants.
So again, everybody is working for the weekend.
Go on.
I just remember getting trashed, like you were saying, getting trashed and heckled for the joke whatever it is, the one joke I tried to do, and then immediately turning it on that person. And granted, there wasn't a huge crowd because it was, opening for the opener of Loverboy,
Right.
but people laughing at me skewering the guy, for whatever he was wearing, and this went nowhere.
Is there any bigger rush than when you not to bring up rush again? Is there any bigger rush than when the reaction you get, like that high you get from?
The rush you get from anytime you're performing, if people are acknowledging that, laughing,
a joke lands.
It just encourages you to do more.
Right. It's always good to encourage a wise ass with a microphone.
That's what I say to him. I'm like, why are you doing this? I have a microphone and I'm louder.
Right.
Yeah, I will win.
Right.
I may suck and I'll still win.
But that's good. Now, getting back to when you said, okay, you've done it at Monday and then the same person showed up Wednesday. Have you ever had somebody show up on Thursday and then you've been like, hey,
this is the third night.
There might be some paperwork I should be filling out in front of legal people at this point.
I haven't had the 3 people in a week, I will say that. But I've had people show up back-to-back nights.
And truly, have you... is it big enough now where, because you have a life and other things going on, if you wanted to do this 7 nights a week, is this something that you could go out and just do? Is there that much of a I don't know, like a need or want or like an audience?
Could I? Yes. The usual nights, if I understand the company correctly, we go Sunday to Thursday. There really isn't trivia on Friday and Saturdays because the bars don't need the business. That's when we're doing, something at the Knights of Columbus for a PTA or someone's birthday party. I've done those. Or just some sort of charity event where they're looking to raise money for, the MS Society or something like that. Those happen on Fridays and Saturdays. So, yeah, conceivably I could do it 7 nights a week if I wanted.
Now, see, this is how much I've grown as a person, Joe. Just to let you know, Mike does a lot of work, seriously, for the MS Society. And when he said that, I didn't say, are those gigs a little shaky? Because I'm respectful.
No, you save those for the Michael J. Fox references.
Yeah, that joke would be dead as my dad.
Oh.
Here's my impression of all 3 of our fathers. Ready? Thank you. Good night. See, all 3 of our dads are dead.
I'm laughing on the inside. If I had a microphone on my tummy, you'd hear that laughter.
Oh, so when you go into a private gig, are those a little more dicey?
No.
Dickory, duck.
I rhyme every question.
Yeah.
No, they're more loose. They're because people there want to have fun for the most part. There are people will be like, the answer is this, and I'm like, look it up on the phone. If you can prove it correct, they'll give you the points. I don't give a shit.
Right.
Because those are the people I hate too. No, but for the most part, those gigs are a little bit more relaxed because again, everybody's there just to have fun and win whatever prizes the PTA is put together for them for said night.
When you walk into a room, do you honestly know right away this is going to be a good night, or this is going to be a long effing 4 hours?
Yes, I know exactly what the night's going to be like when I walk in. Because it's not so much
the IROCs in the parking lot.
Pretty much, yeah. But the Zeke averages. You know what it's like when you're going to. Most of the crowds are the same. You have your people that want to win. You have your people that just want to have fun. You have the group of moms that this is their only night out they're going to have in a month. You have all of that. So the crowds. You know what the crowd's going to be like when you see them. It's when you talk to the person hosting the event or who hired you. That's when you have an idea for what you're going to have to do at the event. Like if you're really going to have to sell something. Like if the person is just like, okay, I want, I need it to be this, I need it to be that, and blah. No rap, no swears, I'm like, I work clean for the most part.
I saw the Confederate flag when I drove in. I know not to play rap.
I am going to be playing that.
So no NWA.
Right.
But you'll know what it's going to be like from the people that have hired you. You know what how much you're gonna have to do. But for the most part, everybody's there to have fun. So the crowds are usually good.
Are there any requests for custom trivia questions? Like, we have some questions that have to do with Larry and accounting.
That has happened.
Yeah.
For those events, I talk to the people prior to get a sense of what's going to be done. And they'll say, hey, we want to do some questions about, the place of business if it's a Christmas party, or the school if it's a PTA party.
By the way, Larry, an accountant's kind of a dick.
Yeah. That tickled Mike.
Or was it? So you talk to them beforehand, so they'll give you the questions, and all I say to them is like, I don't care, I will do whatever whatever's you want, because again, I'm a whore. I'll give me money, I'll do whatever.
I'm just private dancer.
Private dancer. I dance for money.
I see where we're going with this.
Just don't hit me like Ike. No, but like
no shoes, no service.
Just make sure the information's correct. Make sure I'm saying the right thing, because I'm going to look like the a-hole when, you say, okay, who's this person, that did this, in the lunchroom? And
there's three answers.
There's three answers to it, but they only give me one.
Right. Like what's Margie's favorite color?
Rainbow.
No.
Plaid.
Yeah. They've gone to plaid. All right.
That should have been a spaceship. That should have been a spaceship.
Oh, the space ball. All right. Tune into the last podcast to hear about that.
Ludicrous speed.
Okay, trivia break. Right. Time for Simpsons trivia, brought to you by Carnival Personnel. True or false? Ned and Maude, Flanders, sometimes called each other popcorn ball and sponge cake. Mike?
I'm going to say false.
I'm going to say Oakley Dokley true.
Jacques, you would be correct.
No, wait. Okay, let's ask the TJ. Is true or false?
And by the way,
question.
I like the hooker named after you.
Is a true or false question trivia?
True or false? I would say yes. However, not on the trivia nights. That's a true or false questions are used on the questionary night, or opinionation. Opinionation's the.
And how about stats? Because that 64% of stats are made up on the spot.
See that what he did there is that he did that thing.
But that's 100% of the time.
According to Mr. Burns, who was a man that could get things done? Nixon, Rommel, or Lorne Michaels? Mike?
I'm going to go Rommel.
I'm going Lorne Michaels.
No, Rommel is correct. Mike, you are awarded 10 points.
Yes!
Jacques, I only awarded you 5 points in the last one. It was only
because I'm
false.
a guest. Yeah. I'm a guest. I get more.
Right.
Once again, tell people how they can track you down and go to see you 3 nights in a row. Even if you only do trivia 2 nights this week, how can they see you 3 nights?
Well, you can hide in the bushes and follow me, or
like Sean Spicer.
Yeah, thank you. You beat me to it.
Facebook. Facebook's the only way you can get me. Just search for Stump Trivia Sully, and that is where you can find the page where I post.
And that's Sully with 1 U. Yes. Just making sure. My name is Kim. That's K-Y, the number 4.
I loved
Alt-G.
I loved your movie, by the way. That was really cool.
Thank you. I hand chose Tom Hanks to play me.
But
Stump Trivia Sully. That's where I have the page. It lets me know where I'm performing with the trivia stuff, and I post questions and clues that you can look up the answers to and have answers ready before you get there.
Mike, could you regale us with one trivia question that we haven't read off the card from the Trivial Pursuit game?
Let's see.
In your best BCN voice.
In my best BCN.
First, give traffic and weather.
All right, then. What flower created such a mania during the 17th century that one bulb sold in Holland for the equivalent of $4,000?
Oh!
Epstein's mother. I know it's Howard Shack.
That would be the tulip, Mr. Carter.
You are correct.
Hey! It's because I saw the answer in the back. I was reading the answers as I was giving the other questions.
Okay.
Quiz show all over.
Big fucking cheater.
Quiz show all
I should be a
over
patriot.
again.
Oh, yeah. See what I did there?
Right. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Mike, Joe, and any last thoughts?
No, I just say, Mike, please don't forget.
I wish this microphone were a penis.